Why am I such a worm? Ignore that one. Well, other coaches suck. All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. That's typically how I start these things. So today we're going to run through a Q&A. So the other day I put a question and answer box on my story and basically just had people ask anything they want, however they like, complete transparency. I like to pride myself on the fact that I just say what's on my mind. Sometimes it gets me into a little bit of trouble, but here we are. So obviously I released my first vlog on like Friday the 19th. Explain a little bit about what I'm doing, what my plans are, what I'm getting coached by, so on and so forth. Some of these questions do play into that, which is kind of cool, but I'm gonna try to break these down as well as I can. Had a quick glance over these questions, so none of it is actually prepared, but let's see how we go, eh? So let's get it without further ado and crack on from there. So why am I such a worm? That was a question from my partner. That is completely irrelevant. That is about being too nice about certain things. With work-wise, so let's just ignore that one. What does my current stack design look like? So that's straight into it. So I'm 29. Just give you a little bit of a context here. I have never really had a good crack at bodybuilding in all my years. So when I do get young bodybuilders come through who are 23, 24, I tell them just have a real go and stay consistent, get a good coach, stick with them, run the course. Don't flip-flop too much, because I wish that from like 24, which was like the first time I had utilized PEDs, up until now, obviously with breaks and extensive time off and things like that, I've never really gone aggressively with anything like that. If I had to just run the course all the way through with the right guidance, I'd be a lot further ahead than I am right now. But what is my current stack design? So I'll give you my last 12 months. So I believe I was on 300 testosterone, 500 primobolan, from January to March of 2023. And then from April until October of 2023, I was on 115 milligrams of testosterone, which is TRT. I believe I escalated it for about 2 weeks in July or June. And then I got severe food poisoning in Bali, which made me just come back down to baseline. And then right now I am escalating under the guise of a coach. I'm currently on 250 milligrams of testosterone and 700 milligrams of mastron. And we have intentions of that escalating as needed, but at this point has not done so. So I'm also utilizing 4 units of growth hormone. So there's the highest I've ever utilized. I've only ever really gone 2 to 3. I think I used 4 at one point in my surplus on the back end of 2022 under previous coach. So with that, typically I'd run 3 units. That was more for recovery and lipolytic purposes, skin health, etc. Just like the mild benefits you get from growth hormone, but never use that as a, I guess, I'm not going to say a growth anchor, but as a synergist for growth, and that is what I'm trying to do now. Is it magic? No. Does it make a substantial difference? Not really. What is my recommendation on it? I don't have a recommendation. This is what I do. This is not what you should do. But if budget is on a shoestring, it is not something for you. If it is not going to make you a bodybuilder, it is not going to make you more competitive. It is literally the cream on the top. And if you get a nice slice of cake without, you don't have cream and it's still going to taste pretty damn good. My point is, on the right athlete, they don't really need growth hormone. And that is not the reason as to why these large bodybuilders are as big as they are. The reason these large competitive bodybuilders look absolutely fantastic is a combination of good genetics, work ethic, consistency, and in some cases some very high drug use. But some of the best athletes I know are quite modest in their use. Next question. I'm going to unlock the phone again. Why do so many clients move to you mid-prep from other coaches? Because other coaches suck. That's a really rude thing to say. I've never had someone come from another coach to me and actually thought to myself, that coach is doing their job. Usually there's significant neglect from the coach, whether that be delays in check-ins, delays in responses, cookie cutting programs, like weird mentalities, etc. There's just no attention to detail or care is probably the main thing. The reason they do move to me is because I do get very good reviews and I am very invested in all of my clients, and most importantly my competitors, as they are a direct reflection of me. And obviously word spreads. Usually it's friends of the client, so like someone will be getting coached by another person, I'm coaching the friend, and they'll say he's been fantastic. They'll compare and they'll come across. I'm not the most experienced prep coach in the world. Like obviously I would consider myself experienced, yes, but of course there's other people out there who have been doing it for decades. And I've had cases where I've had some really top coaches, clients move to me, and I sort of feel like, ooh. But the reality is, it's just, I believe a good comp prep coach, provided they know what they're doing, comes down to care factor. It comes down to how invested they are and being able to seek out appropriate help when needed. So there's multiple times where I've run consults with other coaches who I respect just to get another opinion on my athletes, and that's money out of my pocket and time out of my life, which I dedicate to that to learn and to do better for my competitors. So I did one just last week with my good friend JP, he's from South Africa. I did a consult with him. I had him run over all my female IFBB athletes and run over my timelines, and I paid him for his time. We sat down for hours. And that's something which I believe just shows how much I do care about getting the best result, and how I do leave ego at the door when it comes to my preps. Because if I'm unsure about something, rather than stab in the dark or think that my methods are best, or if I think something can be done better, I will reach out to those who are also walking the walk. And obviously with JP, he's an incredibly successful coach. So I was really happy to reach out to him. And I think that it just comes down to, like I said, the care factor and how much I want these athletes to succeed, which is not an industry-wide thing. A lot of these coaches start making money. They start getting a big influx of clientele for comps, and they just see the dollar signs and they just don't care, and they don't realize that this client is investing a potentially once-in-a-lifetime experience in them. So to answer your question, whoever asked that question regarding why, I think it's just my work speaks volumes and word spreads. I care. I treat my clients like individuals. I'm there for them with their journey, and I pull out every stunt possible. And if that means having to swallow my pride and reach out for help, I do it. And this season's results should be a very significant event for me. It should really show what I have worked towards for all these years, and I believe it's the start of something very special. And I've got a good network coming up, and I've got some really good people in my corner, such as JP, for example, who I'm looking forward to growing alongside. So into the next question. That was way longer than it was meant to be. Favorite, it's all about the drugs. Favorite and least favorite compound I've run. All right. I'm incredibly responsive to TREN. Like everyone probably wants to hear that. Yeah, definitely probably the best for physical progress, like in a shorter periods of time when you're already lean. So if you're not lean, it's not going to do much. Yeah, that's the way I've seen it, because even in my practice, like with clients, like you see when you're really lean is when you sort of put in as like magic. When you're not lean, you don't really fucking notice much. For that, that'll probably be the best I've seen for results. I've used Anavar as well, which is similar pool. Don't really feel like I get much out of that. But my favorite compound would have to be Mastron for sure, just for personal circumstances, because I do get very little impact on my blood work, my health markers, my mood, or who I am as a person. I generally just feel like a better version of me. Low risk and good growth anchor, good for a cut, very versatile drug. And just from a application point of view, if I'm talking, no, we'll keep it there. But in regards to least favorite, obviously years ago, when I was like 5 years ago, I ran Dianabol, which was pretty crap. But for my own, if I had to say what I least like for the impact on me, it would be clenbuterol. I really don't like, because it makes me feel like shit and very irritable and very short fused, which I already am somewhat short fused, so that just like exasperates it. And obviously TREN is really bad for the sides too. My least favorite would have to be Clen. And this is just talking personal. I'm not talking from an application standpoint. If I had to talk from an application standpoint, just for an all-round balance, I think the most generic answer is Primobolan. And if I had to talk from a generalized standpoint, what my least favorite compound would be, it would probably be, outside of extremes, probably in the vicinity of DECA or MPP. We'll get on to the next question. All right, got a couple more here. How long should a client be practicing posing? I'm 90 weeks out from my show and I started posing last week. If that doesn't answer your question, I don't know what will. As soon as possible. I know who asked this question too. Just directed at Paul with posing. I would say at least 30 to 40 weeks out, okay? You want to do as much of the posing on the front end of the prep, because on the last 7 to 8 weeks, you're going to be very fatigued, going to be far less inclined to actually want to practice. You might not be in this position because you'll be excited because you look awesome, but as early as possible is basically, it can never be too early. If your goal is to compete further down the line, I would start it super early, even if it's just a session a month or a session every 6 to 8 weeks, just sort of get a feel of what it's like and be able to practice throughout your off season for your photos, for your coach, or just even for yourself. Then early is always going to be good. Yeah, so very important that we get the posing done early. And then we have, how do you handle hunger during prep? Look, I actually always really struggled with hunger, but I didn't know. Let's start again. You're probably not struggling with hunger. And I never struggled with hunger. I can deal with being hungry. Anyone can deal with being hungry. I found for myself, I personally struggled more with just needing a dopamine fix. So obviously eliciting a dopamine response will come from eating food, will come from smoking cigarettes, will come from drinking coffee, will come from sex, porn, like all these things, which some of them obviously we don't really want to indulge in for obvious sake. So I feel like that's what it comes down to for most people. And that's typically what it comes down for me. I want that dopamine hit. And then I find myself getting interested in activities more than others. So such as I'd be very interested in shopping in a prep when I don't really shop at all. And everything that I kind of would need to do in a prep for like my own recreation would need to have some kind of direct benefit or outcome in it, which is like super strange, which is why I think I get really fixated on business during prep, because it's like get satisfaction out of like another client or getting another client success, or do you know what I mean? Or completing another check-in, which is good, it's conductive. But how do I deal with it? Or how do I encourage people to deal with it? I think it's important to embrace it, and it's important to recognize that if you're hungry, you're progressing, okay? If you're not hungry, you're probably not progressing in the way that you want to. In regards to filling this dopamine void, this can be difficult. Everyone will manage this in their own way, and sometimes not going to be the healthiest of ways, but it is going to be very much individual, and I would need to have context of the person there to really understand that. So I hope that this was helpful. I look forward to doing it again. Okay, any further questions, drop me a line. That's what I always say at the end of my check-ins. Drop me a line. I'll speak to you soon and have a good day. Thank you. Maddie!